a wet day there at the coast. There's a live look from our Inn at Spanish Head Resort Hotel in Lincoln City. Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. If you're feeling overwhelmed with exhaustion that never seems to end, your lifestyle could be to blame. Here to explain why is cardiologist Dr. Christopher Davis is joining us today. Dr. Davis, thanks for joining the show.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Great to be with you guys.
Well, you talk about chronic fatigue syndrome. It's much more than just being tired, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, one of the most common complaints when an individual comes to the doctor, they're always complaining about being tired. And there's so many things that go into that. One of the things I think that we often neglect is understanding how much, our environment, how much the stressors in our lives, and I mean both emotional stressors as well as chemical stressors, traumatic stressors, are really integral parts of causing us to have these. I call it the stress bucket. And as that stress bucket fills up, eventually it starts to overflow, which leads to a lot of chronic illnesses, including the chronic fatigue syndrome.
And linking that to lifestyle, what's your follow-up question to your patients as far as where you're digging into seeing why they really are just exhausted?
Right. Well, I actually, I have a health and wellness practice in addition to my cardiology practice. And, I really consider I call it the 5 pillars of health. And when you look at those 5 pillars, we always start with nutrition. And nutrition, I think everybody knows that there are certain things that are, although this is somewhat confusing and sometimes we get it right and sometimes we get it wrong, as far as there's certain things that are more nutritious than others. One of the things I found in my practice, particularly as a cardiologist, people don't know what to eat. And I think that as you are, searching the internet or you're out there trying to figure out what's right for you, sometimes it can be really difficult. But nutrition is one of those pillars. I would say the next thing is sleep. One of the things we really don't pay enough attention to is the importance of sleep and getting good quality, deep and REM sleep. The other thing, another third pillar would be exercise, would be movement. Another would be detoxification. Back to those stressors that are our environment. A lot of the toxins in our environment, our water with heavy metals, the pesticides and other toxins that we're exposed to, is really important for our detox systems to be optimized. Another one of those would be stress and hormone balance would be really important as another. So I ask all those questions, trying to get us some insight as to where, a patient may be having these stressors that are building up, and then we kind of address all of those.
And then at what point does it turn into chronic fatigue syndrome? Because you're looking at the symptoms and they're pretty major.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we really talk about chronic fatigue, where does that begin? And a lot of the stress hormones begin with a gland called the adrenal gland. So our kidneys, and on top of the kidneys, there's an adrenal gland. And that adrenal gland produces a substance called cortisol. And it also produces adrenaline and noradrenaline. And so a lot of this chronic fatigue happens when that adrenal gland has really just kind of poofed out, for lack of a better term. The adrenal gland produces this cortisol that gives us energy and the other adrenal hormones. But at the end of the day, when we're really stressed out and those cortisol levels are running too high for too long, what ends up happening is our bodies eventually just poop out. The adrenal gland kind of poops out, and we start to develop this chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue, we now know, also has a lot of other implications, inflammation and things like that. But I think as you think about it now, the simplest way to explain it really deals with an adrenal gland that really has just pooped out.
It's done. Yeah, so many great tips and advice. Thank you so much for today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Great to be with you.
Yeah, we're going to have more information on Dr. Davis on our website at KATU.com, and we will be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this. But first, here's the latest must-have. Welcome back to Afternoon Live.